Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're cracking open The Art of War
Ooh.
by Sun Tzu, right? This ancient Chinese military treatise, still studied by leaders in all kinds of fields.
Absolutely.
I'm really curious to see what makes it so timeless.
I've seen firsthand how these principles, they apply surprisingly well to modern life, even outside, a straight-up military context.
Right.
We're going to cover some really fascinating stuff about strategy, leadership, even self-awareness.
I'm ready when you are. Let's dive in.
Right.
So, Sun Tzu, he talks about knowing your strengths.
Yeah.
And he compares a skilled general to someone who can, effortlessly throw stones at eggs.
Okay.
Seems simple, but what's he really getting at?
Well, it highlights that it's not always about brute force.
Right.
It's about strategic advantage. It's about knowing not just your strengths, but also the weaknesses of your quote-unquote opponent.
Right.
Whether that's a competitor in the business world or even just a challenge you're facing in your personal life.
Makes you think twice about how we usually approach problems,
Yeah.
Do we just throw everything we've got at them, or do we step back and think, what's the best way to handle this?
That is the question.
Yeah.
It's a crucial distinction that Sun Tzu is making. It's about realizing that victory, a lot of times, it comes from careful planning and exploiting vulnerabilities rather than just, going in with all guns blazing.
Right. And he talks about winning, quote unquote, secretly,
Oh, interesting.
attacking out in the open, but being victorious in secret.
I see.
And then there's that story, with Sun Tzu, the king, and concubines. That one really stuck with me.
Right. Yeah. A pretty powerful illustration of discipline and this unwavering commitment to order that Sun Tzu. He really emphasizes that. And I think it highlights the difference between really leading and just giving orders, True leadership. It means you're establishing a system. Everyone understands the importance of discipline and what happens if they don't follow it.
Well, that makes me think about leadership today, right? There's so much talk about, building a positive, supportive work environment.
Yeah.
Which kind of clashes with this idea of, strict discipline.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, isn't it? I mean, Sun Tzu's methods, they might seem a little harsh by today's standards, but that underlying principle, it's still relevant,
Right.
A leader has got to establish clear expectations and make sure everybody's on the same page. Doesn't necessarily mean ruling with an iron fist,
Yeah.
but it does mean creating a culture of accountability,
Right.
respect for the mission.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You need that shared understanding, that commitment to actually achieve something together, right?
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, Sun Tzu, he's a big believer in adaptability. He compares a skilled army to a shuaijan, which is the snake that can strike from anywhere.
Interesting.
So what's the significance of that analogy?
Well, he's highlighting, the ability to adapt, to respond quickly and effectively to any situation. And think about how crucial that is today, right? Things are changing so fast.
Right.
The world is moving quickly. You've got to be ready to adjust.
Yeah.
Whether you're dealing with the job market or unexpected problems in your personal life, being adaptable, that's key.
Yeah.
And it's not just about surviving.
Yeah.
It's about thriving, right?
Like you're not just reacting to change, but you're almost anticipating it, right?
Yeah.
And then, adjusting your game plan to actually come out ahead.
Exactly. That's what Sun Tzu is saying. A skilled leader doesn't just wait for things to happen. They're always thinking ahead, adapting their approach.
Yeah.
And it's even more relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
Markets change on a dime. New challenges pop up every day. You got to be ready.
It makes me think about Sun Tzu's advice on, speed and decisiveness in war.
Right.
He seemed to be really against dragging things out, those
Yeah.
prolonged conflicts.
Yeah.
And even talked about, leveraging your conquered foe to actually strengthen your own position.
Exactly. And that goes back to minimizing your losses and maximizing your gains. A swift, decisive action, a lot of the time that's going to yield much better results. And that applies to, well, not just military strategy. We're talking business negotiations, personal decisions, even creative endeavors.
It's amazing to me how these ancient military principles, they still have so much relevance to our lives today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that actually leads us to another super interesting concept from The Art of War, moral law.
Right.
And it's not about, legal rules or anything like that. It's more about the leader being in tune with their people. He actually lists 5 virtues of a commander: wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness.
Yeah, it's about inspiring, true commitment, genuine loyalty, instead of ruling by fear or intimidation.
Right.
You think about a leader who embodies those virtues: wisdom to make tough calls, sincerity in how they interact with people, benevolence towards their team,
Right.
courage to face those challenges head on.
Yeah.
And that strictness to maintain order.
Right.
That kind of leader, they don't need to demand respect. It
Right.
just comes naturally.
It makes you think about the leaders that you've admired,
Right.
right? The ones who really motivate you, who inspire you to work together to achieve something great.
Absolutely. It's about building that sense of shared purpose, that trust.
Yeah.
And that is powerful no matter what you're doing.
It reminds me of what Sun Tzu said about rulers, interfering too much in their generals' campaigns.
Yeah.
Like even a ruler who thinks they know everything, they should still know when to take a step back and trust their generals on the ground.
Absolutely. It's about delegating,
Yeah.
giving power to the people who are closest to the action. Micromanaging, that just kills creativity, kills initiative. It holds everything back. Trust your team, give them clear goals, and then allow them to actually do their jobs effectively.
Makes you realize the importance of building that strong team where everybody feels empowered to, do their best work.
Mm.
Now, we can't talk about the art of war without getting into the world of spies. Sun Tzu, he was big on foreknowledge, right? Knowing what's coming before it happens and how to use spies effectively. He actually has like 5 different categories of spies,
Wow.
each with their own, methods for gathering information.
That's incredible because accurate information, knowing what's going on, that is crucial for making smart decisions.
Right.
It's like today, we talk about market research, competitive analysis, data analytics.
Right.
It's the same principle. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your competitors.
He actually uses these examples of a Yin and Lu Ya,
Yes.
these historical figures who were supposedly masters of using spies to their advantage.
Interesting.
It just goes to show you this whole idea of strategic information gathering, it's not new, right? It's been a key factor in success for, well, centuries, really.
Absolutely. Always be learning, gathering insights from all over, and then using that knowledge to make those strategic decisions.
It's almost like having a secret weapon,
It is.
Knowing something that your competitor doesn't, it really makes you realize intelligence gathering, it's not just for, spies in the trenches.
Right.
We all do it in different ways.
In a way, yeah, we're all kind of gathering intelligence all the time.
Hmm?
And Sun Tzu, he was way ahead of his time with that
Yeah.
one. Understanding the power of information. And today, with so much information out there,
Oh, I know it.
you really got to know how to filter it, figure out what's important, what's not, how to use it to your advantage.
Well said. It's amazing, isn't it? We're talking about this ancient military text,
I know.
and yet it's still so relevant for navigating, well, life in general.
Absolutely.
Whether we're, leading a team, making a career change, or just trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in.
It really speaks to the power of Sun Tzu's thinking. His work has endured for a reason. And listen, we've only scratched the surface here with the art of war. But even this little taste, it gives you a framework, right?
For sure.
For thinking strategically, leading with wisdom and courage, respecting the power of knowledge.
Couldn't agree more. This has been a really eye-opening look at the art of war. But before we go, any final thoughts for our listener as they, go out and continue to explore these ideas?
Just as Sun Tzu said, all warfare is based on deception. So as you're fighting your own battles, right, at work, in your personal life, remember to look a little deeper. Don't just accept things at face value. Ask questions, get different perspectives, and cultivate your own sense of strategy.
That is such a good point to end on because it reminds us that strategy, it's not just about knowing the rules.
Right.
It's about seeing the bigger picture, anticipating the unexpected, staying one step ahead. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art of war. Remember, knowledge is power, but using that knowledge wisely, that's true wisdom.